Okay, I'm going to make a family traditional candy that actually was in our Presbyterian church cookbook that we put out back when I was a kid. So I was born in 1955, so this is a very old recipe. First thing you want to do is take your good butter. I use either Challenge, salted, or Land O'Lakes. If you get unsalted, you have to add a pinch of salt for the flavor, because salt enhances sweetness. So then we've lightly buttered the pan, and then actually you can use one of the four. So you have to have a big enough pot, because even though there's only, with the 2 cups of sugar, it'll only be about this high, it will rise because the water in the sugar and the butter will start to steam and bubble, and the whole mixture is going to rise. So this is why I keep stirring it while it's cooking. So the other thing to have ready is a 1/2 cup of ground almonds, and you just get slivered almonds that have been roasted, and Trader Joe's makes good ones. If they come not roasted, you can pan roast them, but that'll give it the right texture. You could use the raw almonds as well, and it'll taste okay, but the little bit of roasting adds some flavor. So I've got the pan. Now you want to have a thermometer ready. The thermometer has to be able to go into the candy zone, which is over 250 all the way up to 400 degrees. I used to use not a whatever this is, liquid that goes up the measurer, but I used a metal, like it looks like a meat thermometer, where you pierce the meat, and that worked really well, because I've had a couple of these. If it's too cold when I start and I stick it in, it'll crack, because it's designed to gradually measure the heat increase. And the problem is I don't want it in the way as I'm stirring for most of the time. So this thermometer is at the ready. I've got everything at the ready. I'm going to turn on the heat. Okay, the heat level I'm going to put it at, this high is up here. I put it at about a 4. So it's a medium heat. And I have a wooden spoon ready for stirring. Wooden spoon is not going to heat up, as you are going to be constantly stirring. I have the whole pound of butter in there, and 2 cups of sugar. This is actually 1 cup. Did you measure 2 cups in here? Okay. I'm going to assume there's 2 cups in there. And then this is where some of the work comes. This butter's soft, so I'm going to break up some of the cubes of butter in here, just so they'll melt faster. And as the butter starts getting melted, I'm going to mix in the sugar, so it's all becomes one emulsion. Sometimes I'll let the butter melt a little bit and then add the sugar, and it'll start stirring in easier. This is somewhat therapeutic during Christmas time. Sit here and spend 20 minutes making a batch of toffee.
I'm on regular now.
So you can see the butter has completely melted, and we have a complete mixture, but the butter wants to separate and come to the top all the time. So I keep stirring to keep it mixed. But it's starting to bubble around the edges. The butter is boiling now. And as it begins to boil, that means the water is coming out. And that's really what's happening in this part, is the water creates steam, it bubbles and makes the mixture start to change its quality. So you can see there's all kinds of little goobers from the butter in there. You could say like dairy imperfection or something. The butter has fat, butter has water, and there's bits of, you could say, whey in there that hasn't really been completely removed. So you can see the bubbling is starting to happen in the middle as well. You can see that bubbling. And this is actually, when it's hot, it's kind of a dangerous mixture to handle. But as I let it bubble, it's frothing just a little bit, and I'm going to keep stirring in that everything, including the froth. And I'm going across the whole bottom of the pan to make sure it doesn't stick anywhere. The butter actually is seasoning the pan and keeping it from sticking, so it slides around pretty well. But we don't want it just sitting on the burner and starting to burn in one spot. So you can see how it's actually becoming more like almost a thick whipped cream in there. But if we don't do this, it'll just keep getting bigger and it could overflow the sides. And that's why you need a big enough pot. This is about, I think, 3.5 or 4 quart pot here. The little 2 quart was not big enough. I moved it to this one. You can see how it's growing right now. It's growing in volume. But once the water is released, it's going to start shrinking again. It'll become more solid and less fluffy. It's possible the stirring, I've never not stirred it, so it's possible the stirring is what makes it come out consistently smooth. I do the stirring for my personal therapy. And I'll be happy to hand the baton to someone else to make this. There were times in my life where I had so many leaders in my job as a pastor to give little gifts to, that I'd make like 16 batches of this. And I was constantly, during the whole holiday season, making more. Maybe having about 4 pans going at different stages of coating, cooling, and then finally being able to break them up and put them in tubs and then put those in bags so I could make little gifts out of them. Now I make probably about 6 to 8 at the most during the holiday season. So you can see it's not bubbling quite as much. Still bubbling, but not quite as much. So what I'm going to start looking for now is a slight change in color. I want to go from the creamy yellow color of the butter to starting to see some brown. And that will come up also as I scoop from the bottom and get that integrated into the rest. The butter starts to cook and become browner. There's a little brown I just detected in there. So that says we're on the other side of mixing, and now we're going into starting to brown. When it gets dark enough brown, I'll stick the thermometer in, but it's not hot enough yet. Yeah, I can see some color in there. You may not be able to detect it, but I've been doing this long enough. I can detect the off color of the butter right in there. It's a little bit brown. Yeah. And the big problem for me is I've been on keto and I can't eat this. The problem is I can't resist it either. It's kind of like Lay's potato chips. The butter in there it hits your taste buds when you eat a piece. And you can't just eat one. You got to keep eating. That's the problem. So only people with more discipline than me should be making this. Okay, it's starting to brown up. You can see that the color has changed, and it's not bubbling as much anymore. It's bubbling around the edges, but the water pretty much has been cooked off, and now we're going to get it's going to shrink a little bit and get more solid. But you can see how it's more starting to turn a caramel color. Okay, that gives you a sense that we're nearing the temperature. So I'm going to take the thermometer here, and I'm going to stick it in there. I'm actually going to use something to hold the tip just so I don't have a problem. I don't know if you can see the temperature going up. Can you see? Yep, you can see it. It needs to get up to the red. To the middle of all those red is 300. So it has to get to at least 300, and that's the hard crack stage. And I take it, usually let it go a little bit higher, but when you turn the heat off, it's still gonna heat up just a little bit because the pan itself is heated up and cooking the candy. So we're okay. Okay, I'm approaching 300 now. And let me get this out of the way so you can see it. Right there. Can you see that? Okay. It's gonna hit. I want it to get right to 300. There we go. It's at 300. I'm gonna pull this out and just stick it over here. Okay. Then I'm gonna turn off the heat. I'm gonna start stirring in the almonds, but I have to be mixing it in the whole time or I'll have a clump of almonds in the middle of this. Okay, I need to get a cloth just to make sure I'm not killing myself here. Okay, I'm gonna completely stir in the almonds. And here we're gonna put it into the pan. So, Ariana, you stay right there. And it just pours right in. See, since it's greased, it'll pour right out of this pan. Okay. Darn it. It's moving away. Okay, and then you can just bring it to the corners like this. And even though I pulled it up from the bottom, it's now gonna, okay, now I just have to leave it there.